All right, so our first simulation, we're only going to do a couple of them, is to simulate flipping a fair coin. That means 50% chance of heads, 50% chance of tail. We're going to simulate flipping this coin 20 times. We're going to let heads be represented by 0 and tails by 1. The first thing I want to do then is go to a Google Sheet. And so click on the cell. The cell is just one of these rectangles, upper left-hand corner. And you'll notice at the bottom on the iPad, I have an enter text or formula. So I tap that and I get the keyboard. And so I want the equal sign. Right, tapping the equal sign always tells either it tells Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet that you're actually going to put a formula in. What I want to do is I just want the numbers 0 and 1, heads or tails, right? And so I'm going to tell it random. And the nice thing is, just like so many modern technology, I start typing, I want random between, just like we saw in the previous video. And so the low score, our minimum, is 0. Our low score is 0, so I'm going to type a 0 in. And then our high score is going to be 1, our maximum. And so I hit return. So equals random between 0 and 1, heads and tails. All right, so I got a 0, so technically that would be a tail. But what I would like to do is I would actually, I'm going to get rid of my keyboard, I would actually like to do this 20 times, right? So on the bottom right where that dot is, I'm just going to drag that down to 20. And so I've dragged the blue dot down to 20, and up where the A is, which is the name of this column, I have autofill. And it takes the little program that we made, the equals random between 0 to 1, and it just reproduces that program. Since it's random, or at least relatively random, we don't know what we'll get. Now, as it is now, if I were to do something, if I were to copy and paste it, for instance, what's going to happen is it's going to randomize it again. Every time I do anything, it will randomize it. So I need to stop that from happening. The only way to stop that from happening is to tap the A again and copy it. So I've copied that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out, and I'm going to go to a Google Doc and tap it, and I'm going to press paste. And what that does, what the paste does is it pastes it without the program random between. So now if I tap and I hold my stylus or finger down, it'll give me the select all. I think I forgot to write that in, but that's another command we'll need. So if I select all, it will select all of them, and then what I can do is copy it again. So I have all these 20 ones and zeros, and I copy it, and I go back to my sheet, and I tap it, and I paste, and I've got the zeros and ones. Notice they're not the same, because the second I copied and pasted for A in the original cell, because it's actually got this program in there, it randomly programmed a whole new set of zeros and ones, because that's what it does, it generates random numbers. That will not happen on our new case. So what I'm going to do now, there's only 20, which isn't that great. If this were 200, however, if I drag this down to the 200, this would, even if I collect them together, this would be kind of a pain to count all of the zeros, for instance. I don't need to count them all, but it would be a pain to count all of the zeros and ones. So what I can do is I have a command, and this will help especially if I'm dealing with dice, say going from 1 to 6 or something like that. So again, if I want to use a formula, I tap a cell, and at the bottom, equal, always type in the equals. The equal tells Google or Excel that I'm going to do a command. And so the command I want is count if, and so I'm going to start typing that, and at some point, notice it says count if third to the left, and what I want is the range. The range is going to be my cells. So this, I put these in column C. And C goes from 1 to 20. And the way that works is, so I go C1, because that's the first one. C1, notice how it's selected, colon, and that basically tells the word TO. So you're going from C1 to C, and we went all the way to 20, and that'll select them all. And comma, and my criteria. Put your criteria in quotations. So what I would like is, for instance, all the ones. So I'm going to write equal 1, and then end my quotation, and it's going to count all the ones for me. Now again, this would be pretty easy to do, but again, if there are 200 of these, I'm going to argue it would be a lot easier once you have this command down. And I hit the return, and that tells me I have 7, 7, 1. So you could count them and check. And again, this isn't a big deal when you only have 20 flips simulated, but 20 flips. So wait a second. By the way, out of 20 flips saying it's 50-50, I didn't get 10. And in this case, we counted 1, so that's tails. So I didn't get 10 tails, I got 7, which means I got 13 heads, so it's not 50-50 yet. And we'll talk about that. So this simulation didn't give me maybe what I was thinking I would get. All right, so that's the end of that. We'll do another one in a moment, but that was this simulation.